Welcome, everybody, to the Polaris Connection, your podcast that connects parents of autistic children with purpose. I am your host, Brad Broyles, and I'm here with the one and only Nathan Palmer. Thank you for being here.
Hey, it's an honor. I love doing these things.
Oh, it's amazing. It's a great day. Sun's out, shining, and we're excited for our topic today. Nathan, this is something I've been wanting to speak with our listeners for a long time. We wanted to discuss the top 5 things I wish I knew about autism.
That's an interesting topic, Brad. I think this is just going to be a candid conversation then about... So, can I be frank?
Yes.
Top 5 things I wish I knew about autism. I wished I knew early on what is autism.
Well, what is, okay, so is that number one? I mean...
Yeah, we'll call that number one.
Okay, so number one, so let me ask you, I mean, what is autism? How can we define it?
Yes, that it's still being defined. Like when I was first exposed to it, there were still sub-diagnoses. You know, there was Asperger's and other things. And then it got just wrapped into autism spectrum disorder. And it's a spectrum of things from low to high and everything in between. And, you know, when we first had our son diagnosed, before we even went through all the testing, I remember the doctor just sitting there going, yeah, your son's on the spectrum. Like, how do you know? Like, is this a blood test? Like, I really didn't know. Like, how do you quantify this? He's like, look, sometimes when you know, you know. And I find myself saying that now that I've seen it more and more, but to quantifiably just define it is really hard.
Yeah, it is hard to define, you know, and if you think about it, the ASD world, the spectrum has only been around for less than 100 years, I guess, as defined. From what I understood, it kind of came out in the early 1940s as being studied as a possible diagnosis or a possible behavior. So is it fair to say that we really just don't know a lot about autism?
Yeah, you know what? Let's say we're learning more and more about it all the time.
Okay.
Right? Because I think that's just a little more hopeful way to say the same thing. You know, a lot of us, if you're familiar with that movie, Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh, I love that
it's
movie.
Comedy.
My favorite one is when he throws the guy out on the bus and he's like dragging him from the bus. Do you remember that part? Or the liger?
Yeah, so it's a lot of slapstick, you know, humor. You can identify with it like, hey, it's that odd kid from high school that we all knew, but it's funny. I watch it today, and that's like textbook autism, right? And so you look at it and you go, oh, that kid's on the spectrum, or she's on the spectrum, like, and it just presents in a way that I just identify with now. But back then it was just a comedy.
And you know, but see, there's the other side that says, well, because of screen time, because of all this technology, we have more autism now than ever before.
And I mean, there's also proponents that the more screen time they get, the more focused they are. So I mean, that's why I keep saying it's ever changing, and chasing that definition gets harder because I think the field of what constitutes somebody on the spectrum keeps growing.
Yeah, they keep defining more of it. Like you said, it does grow, it does expand. But, you know, we hear that argument from time to time that, hey, because of this or that, it's the leading cause, or it's growing. Now, we do know that more and more. I was just doing some research, which, you know me, I'm a research, I'm kind of like a research nut. And I thought this was kind of interesting. According to the CDC, they say that 1 out of 31 children in 2022, this is a report back in 2022, has autism.
Yeah.
How do you feel? I mean, what do you think about that statistic?
So mixed. I'm a logical guy. I've taken statistics in college, and so part of me goes, are we just getting better at identifying? Are we catching more kids?
Yeah.
Right. The other part is we're combining. You know, what used to be just classic autism was different than Asperger's and different than other sub-classifications, and so we grouped those. Mm-hmm. That might have changed it. We're widening the spectrum of what constitutes autism. We're becoming more aware of it. So we're capturing more kids that maybe were falling through the gaps before. So it's the question for me is twofold. Is our rates really climbing, or are we better at seeing something that's been here for a while? And is it just getting more attention? And I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I don't think anybody. So there's other arguments that says, well, we are now identifying more because of funding, because it's about a money grab. It's like, you've heard before, I'm just as good as my budget from a government standpoint, but is that really the truth? Or are we, like you said, are we better diagnosing it now?
Yeah. As I can tell you as a parent, as someone now that's in the field with our school, the way I explain autism has kind of morphed, and my understanding of it, and listen, I'm not a doctor, but the best way I've been able to describe it to like family and friends when they go, oh, your son's on the spectrum, what does that mean? At the core, Brad, I think it's a different way of processing information neurologically.
Yeah.
I don't think it's just a behavioral thing. There is a biologically different process on how sensory data enters their system, whether it's through hearing or sight, and it follows a different path in their brain than a standard person.
Yeah.
What could that look like? Well, we have the fight or flight response, right?
Yes.
So for one kid, lights and sound might track through that part of the brain first versus just the processing section. So it's going to trigger this heightened awareness and this fear sensation. For another, it might go through the pleasure center. So there's other kids that are sensory seeking. So you look at the spectrum and you have two kids that you say are on it. One can't stand bright lights, one loves bright lights, but they both have the same diagnosis. And therein lies the problem of, well, how do you serve such a broad...
I know, just they're two different sides. Yeah. And you're like, how do I serve both sides?
Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, it's just they process information differently. And so almost the joy, I guess, if you like puzzles, is figuring out, okay, how does this one process?
Isn't that beautiful?
And how do I help them? And yeah,
it's actually beautiful. It's like a painting. It's like a beautiful rainbow that people that sometimes are like, well, we're going to put you in this box, or I'm afraid of it, to where it's, if you embrace it, like, wow, this is really incredible.
So let's call it that. Let's call autism is a beautiful kind of different. There's my definition. That's autism.
I like that definition. So it's a beautiful kind of difference. Okay, so I think we always come up with these cool slogans while we're talking, because it is beautiful. And the more that we work with these kids, I don't know, I just feel like we call it a superpower.
Yeah.
It's not something that, oh, this is something wrong. And sometimes when we meet with parents, they're like, come fix my child, make him or her like everybody else. And you're like, no, they're beautiful. Like, this is amazing what they can do.
Yeah. Yeah. And every kid really is beautifully unique. They wonder, was Einstein on the spectrum? You watch the new Spider-Man movie and he's like, I have to wear these restrictive goggles because my sensors are dialed up to like an 11. I'm like, that's totally a spectrum kid. And we hear about all these personalities, and some of them are genius. I've met kids that can see a room and inventory everything within a few seconds and tell you everything about it. It's just amazing. One, it shows what the brain can truly do.
Right.
And maybe in some ways they give us little peeks at our true potential if we really are humble enough to watch it.
That's wonderful. Okay, so what is autism? Beautifully different. Love it. So another thing, what else would we want to know about autism?
Yeah. I don't know if we get to 5, but we'll keep rolling with it. Another thing I wished I knew is, what does that mean for my child?
Oh, yeah.
As a parent, it's hard enough already forecasting and just trying to picture what's my child's future going to be like. You have this natural tendency to give them the best version of the future that you can possibly give. When you're introduced to this diagnosis, you just ask the question, what does that mean for the future?
Mm-hmm. And what are most parents worried about with their child on the spectrum? I mean, I guess you can't speak for everybody, but from your experience, what are they afraid of?
The common one, just, are they going to be okay on their own one day? Mm-hmm. Are they going to be able to have a family? Are they going to be able to experience the same things in life that I experienced? Early when I was looking through that lens, I found myself comparing my son's experience to mine. And it takes letting go of that to be able to go, okay, his future might not be my future, but that doesn't mean it's a bad future.
Right. I think a lot of parents kind of fall. We talk a lot about these, it's like I'm in football, right? And we have parents that live through their kids. in a way. I want my kids to have I want my son to be just as good as a football player as I thought I was back in the day. Sometimes parents feel like that because we're a little bit afraid of what autism really brings, that we're not quite sure what it looks like. And so we don't know. So we kind of freeze up, and in a way, it seems like parents want to fight it rather than embrace it.
Yeah.
How can you get through that? Like, what would be some, I guess, ideas of how to embrace autism rather than, hey, I'm going to fight this and prove that my child is not autistic?
Oh gosh, we could probably start a whole company on delivering that service. If I could answer that comprehensively for everybody, that's like business number 2, 3, 4. But from my experience, and again, I can only talk from me, and everybody's journey is different. One thing I can say that's been helpful is just trying to be present. And what I mean by that is enjoy today for today. Thinking about the future, like next week and tomorrow is one thing, but thinking about, well, what's next year? What's 5 years? What's college? What's vocational future? It can be overwhelming. It can be like it's this weight that just weighs on you because there's not clarity.
Yeah.
And so I'd say just stay present and enjoy today, work with today, and find strength in today, and that'll get you to tomorrow.
Well, and like, as you say, I think every parent has that struggle with any one of their child. Like right now, my child just flew out to Romania to do a kind of like a humanitarian service there in Romania. And I'm like, I hope she gets on the flight right. I hope that she meets good people. I hope that she eats good food and not gets stolen, But I think that is a little bit more predictable, I guess, to where if you have an autistic child, you're kind of swimming in deep waters. You're like, okay, I've never experienced that, so I don't know how my child should feel, because honestly, I don't know how that feels.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah. And it's in some ways, I think we covered this a little bit on another show. I think it's made me a better parent because it's made a lot of things intentional in how we parent our son on the spectrum.
Yeah.
There's things I think we take for granted that our kids just learn or naturally just experience, right? Kids are resilient and they learn so fast. And the spectrum has allowed me to slow down and appreciate these little nuances that you teach in behavior,
yes,
in social, situations, what's appropriate to text or not. Like I'm finding these lessons that we get into with our oldest son that actually apply to my others, but I might not have ever had the opportunity to teach had I not known it was a developmental milestone. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It's, and on that point, I'm going to throw out the next thing I wish I would have known is, and again, I know there's more than 5, but we learned this a little while ago, play. Like I didn't understand how important play was. I know that's simplistic. It sounds simple, but Sarah Miller was on our show just a while ago, if you remember, and she gave an awesome conversation about just playing with your child.
Yeah, if you haven't listened to that episode, go back to Sarah Miller OT. I think it was a 2-part series. Amazing tips. And you're right. It's, I'm kind of a type A personality, right? So what did I do when I learned about the diagnosis? Well, it's study and what are the therapies and how do we fix this and how do we attack it? And it's overwhelming. It's burnout.
Yes.
And she very graciously reminded us of the joy and the play. And that I think does as much for them as all the other aids and assistance that we try to throw in their path.
I think to your point, we overthink it. We want to study and make sure I read the right books. I talk to the right, BCBA, or I talk to the right people, or I listen to the right YouTube person, to where it's really simple. Just play.
Yeah.
Just play with your child, sit with him or her, and just find out how their world is created in their mind.
Yeah.
And be with them.
Absolutely. We want them to connect with people and have good relationships, so then connect with them.
Yeah.
Teach them what that looks like. And that's, it's easier said than done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
It really is.
Because again, as a parent, I come home after a hard day of work, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the afternoon. Don't touch me. I'm just going to watch AGT. Leave me alone. But it's hard to make that shift and that transition.
Yeah.
But it's so wonderful. One thing I liked again on that episode, how Sarah talked about bringing in nature that she's really big on that, which, that's kind of her way, being an OT, felt safety kind of an approach. I like that, to where bringing nature into their world, outside, walk outside, or just go on a nice little hike. You learn so much from your child. I can't overemphasize the fun of just playing with your child. And yes, maybe you're laying on your stomach playing, I don't know, Pokemon for a little bit. At least he or she is just really into that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. On that note, I don't know what we're on 3 or 4, but another thing, it's okay to get frustrated.
Oh, that's a great point.
Right. Because as a parent, you feel guilty sometimes because you should be there for your kids. And I will tell you, there are moments where you just want to throw a chair through a window, and there's sometimes you might need a break from your kid. And it hurts to say that as a parent.
Mm-hmm.
But the more you learn about regulation, and that's why, when Sarah went over that OT stuff about body regulation and sensation and calming, that I think is as much for the parents as it is for the kids. And being able to be a team to kind of tag out, hey, I'm elevated, I need a break. That's okay. That doesn't make you a bad parent. It makes you a better one to take your space, give them some, and then come back with your best self when you're ready.
But that's something you kind of learned over time. What was a tough lesson that you learned with your son on the spectrum that you're like, you could have done it better? Like, what approach did you do something wrong? You're like, oh, wait, yeah, I can do this better.
Oh my gosh, so many things, Brad. so many.
Choose the top 5 or the top 50.
There it is, the top 5. I wish I would have had more patience. It's our son that was diagnosed. He's our oldest, and so I think it took us a little bit longer to see because, one, we'd never had kids before. He had some other medical things that made it harder to kind of see, and so you kind of find yourself beating yourself up. Why didn't I see this sooner? Why didn't I get intervention sooner? Something I did wrong. I think I didn't have enough patience early on. There were times where I just got frustrated when he wasn't doing things or wasn't listening or wasn't following directions. Like it's hard to just see other kids developing in one way and see your other kid developing differently. And yeah, it's not losing your temper, but just having that grace and patience to go, it's okay. It's different, and that's okay. So I wish I would have had a little more patience.
Yeah. And I think we can relate that with a lot of parents on a lot of aspects. And kind of what you're saying, the more that we've been building this podcast, the school, the clinic, we realize that, yes, we do so much for the kids, but it's really about how to parent. And that's why we wanted this podcast to come out, so we can help parents be better parents, give our audience a better source of resources to say, hey, it's okay if you maybe lose your temper just a little bit or you get frustrated. Know that there's a community that will support you and that will help you with good ideas.
Well, that's a good point. The community side, I remember when, we were neck deep into dealing with this, we kind of went introverted as far as our focus. In other words, he was our focus. We were giving him all of our time and resources, somewhat at the sacrifice of our other kids for a little bit, but it felt like a very closed world. We didn't communicate very much with other families. I mean, we weren't plugged in. It was all about him and not about community. And the more we've been exposed to all the different organizations and resources out there, the more I wished I was a little more plugged in, one, to meet other parents, one, to really see all the options that are out there and just to enjoy that community strength that exists rather than taking it all on as a parent.
Well, let's go down. I have a question for you, because for our audience to know, Nathan has 4 kids. You have 4 kids.
4 boys.
And the oldest has autism. The other 3 do not.
Correct.
How do you navigate to say, okay, Nate Jr., who's your oldest boy, needs this attention or needs this? I mean, you built the school for your oldest son almost in a way, right? Wouldn't the other 3 naturally feel like, well, my dad didn't build the school for me. Hey, my dad has given all this attention to Nate Jr. What about me? Yeah. So, I mean, you would naturally feel that way. So how do you navigate that to where you're like, Yes, because Nate Jr. needs special attention.
Hang on, we're the reverse. Hey, Brad, how do you navigate that? Because I have this problem as a dad where I'm supporting one kid. How do you do that? How do you balance that? I don't know. It's
because I have a hard time. I have 3 and 3.
Hey, parents out there, what's the answer? I think it's look. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's the best we can do is love our kids and try to teach them. The nice thing about our family is we're not quiet about what we're doing and why. They know what autism is, and they know that one of their brothers is a little bit different. And frankly, they're actually turning into mini therapists on their own because they see these techniques and they're very, very socially and emotionally aware, more than I think they would be if they didn't have a brother with special needs, right?
Well, and I think about a little bit with my family. So, for example, my oldest kids are really good of kind of, in a way, regulating my younger kid, right? So they kind of put him, I don't want to say put him in his place, but kind of like, hey, you're supposed to make your bed in the morning, in a way. Do you see that with your kids? Like, because Nate Jr. is autistic, can you empower your younger kids to say, hey, because Nathan is autistic or he likes these type of behaviors, we can work together as a family unit to work with him? Is that so? Is that too far thinking, or is that
no? So I don't know that we single them out that way. For anybody that's got more than one kid, all the kids are different. And I've got 4 boys, and they're very close in age. A couple are adopted, and I'll tell you, they are all unique. Like I thought, oh, boy's a boy is a boy. No, I've got 4 boys, and they are distinct. They have different likes and preferences and different methodologies, things, different, reward centers where some things appealing to one but not the other. And you have to parent them differently. And yeah, one's on the spectrum, but I got 3 more that are just as different in different ways.
Right.
So rather than singling one out, it's all of them. All of them have different ways that we go about parenting. And one thing we try to teach them is, it's not about whether something's fair or not. Fairness is all subjective.
Yes.
Right. And so any good parent knows that you have to adapt to the kids. So as much as we adapt for my oldest, we adapt to the youngest. Right. And that's just part of parenting. It's not a measure of love. It's just a different way we go about it.
Yeah, and I think it's important for all parents to know, even with us as we grow, and no kid comes with instruction manuals, right? So we're all kind of learning the best way that we can. We learn from how we were brought up. Like my mom and dad might have done things one different way, but now that I'm older, I either follow that pattern or I adapt based upon the needs of our child. And so it sounds like we're always learning and always evolving, but give each other grace. I think it's important for kids to know, hey, we love you. We're here for you. We want to play with you. We want to have fun. But it's hard. It's not easy.
Yeah.
And
another thing, as you're talking, I'm realizing there's a lesson that I'm still in my infancy of learning, but it's an important one. And it's okay to consider, what do you need as a parent?
Okay.
So much of...
Wait, so like, what do you need as a parent?
Yes. What do I need?
Okay.
And so shift the focus. Stop looking at your kid. What do they need? What's the next therapy? What's the next support? And just stop and go,
that's a great point.
How am I doing and what do I need? And it's okay to consider that and to feed that.
And that takes a lot of self-reflection.
Yeah.
How would you find that out? Like, how would you know what I need as a parent? And I guess that's kind of why we're having this conversation, right? So how can, as a parent, where would I go, or who would I talk to, or what would I observe to know what I need?
I'd hope, if you're married, I hope you'd start with your spouse, right? They know you better than anybody, if not close friends and confidants. But really, it's just taking a minute to identify, where am I at? Because, we talk about regulation with kids on the spectrum. We talk about helping them be more functional, but dysfunction exists just as much in our lives because of it as it does in theirs. And listen, if we're reactive and if we're triggered and if we're not getting our needs met, our kid's only getting 60, 70% of our best.
Yeah.
And so if we're really going to say, I'm going to give you my best, we need to be taking care of ourselves.
Well, I remember, like, for example, Rachel, she was with us earlier on the show. She really enjoys lifting or weightlifting or running. That really helps her self-regulate, and it's important for every parent to think about, okay, how do I self-regulate? How do I, take care of myself first. That might sound selfish because we have a lot of giving parents. Most parents are very, very giving.
They are, and I would say yes, it does seem selfish. And listen, I'm going to raise my hand high, saying I'm a self-sacrificing guy. That's just my nature. But it's at the same time careless to think that you can sacrifice so much and still have enough left to give it your all.
Yeah.
And that's listen, for me, that's been a really hard lesson. I'm a giver, right? And I have a hard time asking, well, am I giving too much? And there's such a thing. If you ask yourself the question, what can I do? Like, what do I want? What's my release? And you're struggling answering the question, it means you haven't given it enough attention. Like that should be indication number one, you're overdue.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, it does. And it makes me think about, like, how do I know if I don't know if this is the right word, if I'm coddling my child a little bit too much to where he or she is not growing and progressing, to where I'm trying to protect them. And maybe I'm protecting them because of my own insecurity or because I just want to take care of my baby. So, like, how do you break that mold? Like, how do you get past that? So you're like, I'm going to let my child fail and it's okay.
Right. Well, I think that's important for any child, not just on the spectrum, for all of them. Intentional parenting, letting your children actually learn what they're capable of, I think that's critical. We're in a day and age where we can supply anything our kids need. We really can. And if you go back 30, 40 years, and yeah, I know everybody talks about the tough generation. I walked uphill to school both ways in snow.
With no shoes on.
But there's something to be said about lessons learned from doing hard things, right? And so capacity, what's my child going to be able to do just as much as any kid, but especially for those on the spectrum, let them discover their strengths. That is so crucial. The process of being able to move past your failures for any kid is so important. I think today's rates of teen struggles and anxiety and depression is an indication of we're not letting them have enough hardship. And so that doesn't mean you're a bad parent letting your kids struggle. It means knowing how to help them through their struggles rather than taking the struggle away from them.
Right. And I think by kind of what we're trying to create at Polaris Academy is to create this social environment to where they can excel and fail at the same time, and it's okay. So they can discover what they're good at, what they're not good at. It's a good self-reflection for the child. And it's important for our parents to understand that too, that it's okay if they fail on maybe some techniques that might work with their child, or that, hey, if this, like I heard a concept, I thought this was good. If you're doing something right, double down on it. If you do something wrong, you're just learning.
Fair. It's a good perspective.
I think that's a good little lesson for everybody. Like, if you're doing something right, double down on it. If you do something wrong, you're just learning, and just learn and adapt. And
so let me ask you a question, Brad, because when we started this venture and we had this crazy idea to start a school for autistic kids, and look, you didn't come from a background with a kid on the spectrum.
No.
Right. So what do you wish you had known about autism before jumping in? Do you regret the decision?
Yeah. So, well, it's a good point. So to that, I didn't know anything about autism 3 years ago. I've heard about it. I didn't know much about it. It didn't really draw my attention. I wasn't really, and let me just kind of back up. So my wife, her brother has cerebral palsy, and he has it very severe. He cannot move. He needs care all the time. When I was dating my wife, that was my first, I guess, interaction with special needs. With somebody that on a consistent basis. Like, I've always been around, different special needs kids from time to time, but Lance is his name. He was just somebody of special needs, and I was with him quite a bit. And at first, I didn't know how to react. I didn't know how to act around him. I didn't know how to talk to him. I just didn't know what to do. And so, but the more I got to know Lance, the more I learned he was just a goofball. He enjoyed playing games. He loved telling jokes. And the fact now I know it's a little bit different with cerebral palsy and autism, but he loved to harass me. In fact, now when I walk by him, he'll punch me right in the gut And he's older than me, and I kind of grab him and wrestle him around a little bit, and I'm like, and I have a lot of fun with him. But at first I was scared. At first I didn't know how to react. At first I'm like, I don't want to touch you because I don't want to break you, because I just don't. And I think sometimes, I don't know, maybe I'm weird, maybe I'm the new person, but that's what was my first approach with autism. I didn't know how to act around it. I didn't know, how do I treat you? Like, and I realize, and I'm sorry, this might sound simplistic and silly, but now I just give them a high five. Hey man, how you doing? They're just like anybody else. They're a goofball. They have great talents. They have needs and desires. And I know that might sound, I hope that doesn't sound bad, but it just, at first you think of somebody that's special needs and you're like, uh-oh, I don't want to touch you. I don't want to break you. I don't want to hurt you.
I think that is a classic, perfect answer. And I'm so glad you said it the way you did, Brad, because any unknown is fear, right? So what is autism to a new parent? It's fear. What is the future? Well, it's fear. It's unknown. What is it? Community. It's fear. I don't know. How do I address this? If there's one thing I hope we can accomplish with this podcast and reaching community, it's educating them about the world. What is it? What makes it special? Answering some of those questions, removing some of that community fear, so that as a society we embrace it. As parents, we can have hope in it. As providers, we can have fun with the process. And just as people, we know that, hey, there's another part of this community that we belong to that I can embrace.
Well, and if you think about it, 1 out of 30 Americans or 30 people in the world, according to the CDC, has autism. Okay. Again, kind of like how you said, the reason why we started this, or I guess how I got it, my why, this is from me, is that I didn't know what to do. But the more I'm around autism, the more I love it, the more I embrace it, the more I see the superpowers, how they think, the what did you call it? The beautiful autism, or the beautiful...
They're beautifully different. I forget.
Beautiful different. There we go.
Yes.
How beautifully different these people are. I guess we just want to share that message throughout the world that we don't need to be afraid. It is beautiful. It's something that we need to embrace and connect with, and give us tools and resources of how we can connect as a society with this wonderful. The more I get involved with autism, the more I love it, the more I enjoy it, the more I find just how beautiful it really is. Like, they have a nice superpower. I know we always go back to superpower because that's really what it is. And in a way, the more I get into it, Nathan, I'm a little bit jealous. I feel like I'm the weird kid. I'm the weird. I was like, man, I wish I had that hyper focus that you do. I was just reading about, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he was the world's strongest man. And I would love to have him on my show. And I can't remember your name, so please don't. If you listen to me, please don't throw a rock at me. But he's from Scotland. He won the world's strongest man 3 years in a row. And he says it's because of my autism that I did it. He embraced it, and he knew that because of his autism, he was very super focused in weightlifting and strength training. He just got really into it, and he just loved it. What an awesome skill to have.
Really cool. Yeah. And to your point, the more I'm around these kids, the more I realize they're not stressing like we are, right? Most of the stress and the weight is coming from us as parents or us as providers wondering, oh, how do I help? How do I fix? How do I solve? And they're just content being. And to your point, sometimes it's enough just to be with them, to enter their world, to play, to connect. And I think the more we're able to connect with them, the more we're able to connect the community with what this is, the less fear we have, the less stress we have, and the more we get to just enjoy this beautiful thing that is autism.
That's wonderful. I mean, it almost makes me want to. So Nathan and I were going over different topics, and I thought it'd be nice to go over the 5 amazing things about autism.
Maybe 5 number. Did we even hit 5? I lost track.
So I guess as we wrap up, Nathan, what would be a good way to kind of end and say, you know what, I wish if I had to, give a last advice for a parent, what would be your kind of like last advice I would recommend to any parent with a child with autism?
Yeah, two things. Rely on those close to you, right? You need breaks. You really do. I wished I had taken that advice myself early on. There was so much unnecessary stress I wasn't able to release because it's hard to accept or to look for or even know how to find help. So allow that time. And the second thing is connect. It's going to fight every instinct you have because you're going to be so hyper focused on your child and the diagnosis and the process and the appointments that you're going to forget about the entire rest of the world around you, and you're going to miss a lot of that connection and support and resources and just fun that exists out there for this community. Mm-hmm. So find time for yourself and connect.
Well, and that's kind of the reason why we wanted to reach out to the community, show ways that we can connect, give everybody resources, kind of like a tool belt in a way. Say, okay, we're going to talk about a variety of topics, and we hope that some of these topics will be best for you, that you can feel empowered with your child, or it doesn't even need to be with your child, just anybody on the spectrum that you might know in your community. Like, how can we connect you? How can I best give you your best life? And how can I be a good resource for you so I can understand and connect?
Absolutely. Love the purpose and mission.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for listening to us for this wonderful podcast. 5 things that I wish everybody knew about autism. The beautiful, what was it?
Beautifully different. I mean,
beautiful, different. Yeah. Love it. So thank you so much for making us part of your day, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everybody.